Being an American means that our right to privacy is protected under the Constitution, but as students, our privacy rights are different in our right to be searched, drug tested, and electronic rights.
When students enter the school building, privacy rights change, especially when it involves safety.
It seems that even though students are required to sign the handbook, we don't really know what our privacy rights are in schools.
Can the school have access and review your Google account without you knowing?
Like, are you asking if I do know?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, according to the student handbook, they are allowed to go through your Google account and review it without you knowing.
it's pretty messed up.
So my question for you guys is, does the school have to have a cause to search your locker?
Yeah. I feel like they can't just decide to search our lockers for no reason. Like, they have to have, like,
A good reason.
yeah, some sort of suspicion or reasonable cause.
Not something like your assumption of going over something else. Like they have to have like a good cause.
Actually, the correct answer is they actually don't have to have a cause to search your lockers. They can just search, anyone's locker at any time.
In the case of TLO versus New Jersey, school officials searched a high school student's purse, suspecting she had cigarettes, a small amount of marijuana, a list of students who owed her money. She was charged with the possession of marijuana.
Yes, and this was taken to the Supreme Court. The question in the Supreme Court had a debate was if the exclusionary rule applied to searches conducted by school officials in public schools.
The Supreme Court found that while unreasonable searches and seizures applied to public school officials, TLO's search was found reasonable.
So as we've seen, at school you have the right to privacy, but the school also has the right to search.
For what reasons can you be randomly drug tested?
Maybe like if the school has reasonable suspicion that you could be doing drugs, or like if you post it on social media or something.
So you can get randomly drug tested if you're in a sport or if you drive a car, basically. They can randomly just test you anytime.
That's interesting.
In addition to the previous case, there is a question about drug testing and should school allow drug testing with their students that doesn't hurt privacy rights.
Students also have different rights when it comes to drug testing, like in the case Verona School District 47J versus Acton.
High school athletes in the school district were found participating in illicit drug use. So they were investigated, and the school district, being concerned that there would be increased injuries, adopted the student athlete drug policy, which authorizes random drug tests for athletes.
And James Acton, a student, was denied participation in his school's football program because he refused to consent to the drug testing.
The question for the Supreme Court was, does random drug testing of high school students violate the reasonable search and seizure clause of the Fourth Amendment? The court found that it didn't violate the clause because the students were under supervision of the school and were subject to greater control than adults.
Do you think students have enough rights to their privacy in the school? Why or why not?
I think yes, because when the Constitution came out, there's this thing called the Bill of Rights that came out. And the Fourth Amendment of that is you can't search anything without a warrant.
I do think students have enough privacy, and I think there has to be a balance. I think there are some issues that should remain private that students shouldn't have to reveal.
However, there was a case that established probable cause.
Student health, for example. It's important for our nurses to know if a student has a medical condition so that if something were to happen at school, we know how to best help that student. So there's a balance, between what stays private and what gets shared. But then I think the key question in what gets shared is, who does it get shared with?
And so I think the really relevant question about students and privacy is how much privacy do students want? When you look at someone my age in his 40s, I have different expectations of privacy than what young people do in the age of social media. So the first question we have to answer is, how much do you want? Do you have enough by my standards? No. Realize that the values of social media are radically different than what I would value in terms of my own personal privacy. But I am not you.
Why do you think the rights to privacy are different in schools than they are everywhere else?
Schools act, quote unquote, local parentis, which is in the place of the parent. So when you are here, school officials have essentially all the rights and responsibilities of a parent.
And since all students have to be here, the flip side of that is it's our obligation to keep every student safe.
And usually at this time of their life, especially in high school, it's basically where students learn from their mistakes. It's basically try to teach these kids right from wrong, while in the real world, they don't have specific people telling them what's right or wrong. It's all on their own stuff. And most of that stuff will be influenced how they grew up in high school.
Are the rules regarding student privacy, or the lack of it, fair or reasonable? Why or why not?
I think the rules are in place not to be unjust. And to be honest with you, we don't really have an interest in taking away students' privacy at all.
The balance is this, and I think if you're a student, it's something to remember, that whatever you put on a social media account or whatever you put in your lockers is open for school officials or for parents to look at if we have a reasonable belief or reasonable suspicion that something negative might be occurring.
Kind of this collective idea that like people are willing to sacrifice a little bit of their privacy in a school setting for the collective good so that everybody else can feel safe and that we can ensure a good educational environment.
So a new issue for students' privacy rights is when it comes to technology. For example, there was a case with the Pennsylvania School District where they opened web cameras.
A student who accuses his school of spying on him through his district-issued laptop appeared in federal court Monday. The ACLU filed a brief in support of Blake Robbins' lawsuit, arguing district actions amount to an illegal search.
They thought I was selling drugs because they thought I was popping pills when really I was just eating Mike and Ike's.
Robbins says an assistant principal at Harriton High School activated the laptop remotely and took a picture of him inside his bedroom.
And the question is there an invasion of privacy? Is there an unreasonable search of that student's home?
The school settled the case for $610,000 and were cleared of any criminal wrongdoing. The Robbins family hopes to lobby Congress for stronger privacy rights.
Do you think students are entitled to privacy with their school devices, or should the devices be able to be searched without reasonable cause? Why or why not?
Okay, so my opinion about that, the only purpose for a school device, it's there for us to help us with educational stuff, and sometimes that could be they put their banking account and stuff on there. And in that case, I don't think it should be looked at without the student knowing about it. The student should have the right to know.
The way it works with teachers is that I do not have free speech during the school day. And since the school district buys my speech while I'm here. And so as long as the parameters of my speech are in alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing as a teacher, and as long as what I'm doing on my computer in alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing as a teacher, there's no problem. I think the same standard more or less should apply to students. If you're given a student device on school time, that time in those devices should be used for school work, and you have no reasonable expectation of privacy with that. And I think that's a good lesson to get right now, because that's what your employment life is going to be like.
To maybe bring a humorous light to it, we just don't have time, to mess around with stuff and to just randomly search kids' devices. We don't do that.
Barack Obama once said, "I think it's important to recognize that you can't have 100% security and also then have 100% privacy and zero inconvenience. In the abstract, you can complain about Big Brother and how this is a potential program run amok, but when you actually look at the details, then I think we've struck the right balance."
And that is the question. Do we want to be completely safe and have nobody in our business but not know if somebody has something dangerous? Or do we want complete security and have no privacy?
And in the case of public schools, when it comes between privacy and security, they were always going to choose security and being safe.
It's me, Jason, Jesse, and Ari. If they test me, they start.
Search.
Is there something else you're searching for?